Hi, my name is Clésia Mendes, and welcome to Womanhood from the Inside Out. In this interview series, we'll be discovering and uncovering the nature of womanhood from the inside out. Why is it important? When does it show? How can we identify it? And what are the implications of womanhood from the inside out? And today, my guest is my dear friend Alexis Blenkarn. Alexis works with moms to be and moms with babies, offering pre and postnatal education classes, breastfeeding assistance, and personal one to one coaching for pregnancy, birth, early motherhood, and breastfeeding. She is fascinated by the journey of understanding that unfolds through childbearing experiences. She loves to offer women a space to focus on what they need and want for themselves and their family, and to guide themselves with confidence through the joys and challenges of their personal journey. Alexis lives in a village near Coimbra, Portugal, with her husband and three lovely bouncy children, and she delivers her services in English and Portuguese, both in person and online. Welcome, Alexis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and have this chat with you. And I'm enjoying the Womanhood series so far.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I was really excited when you got in touch and you sent me a private message and you said, I would love to be on your show. And I was just sharing before we got live that I felt this kind of sensation and I thought, oh, I'm feeling nervous. And then I was wondering why I'm feeling nervous. It was, oh my God, I'm actually excited. So, it was nerves at all. I was just excited about this, what it's about today's episode. And specifically because it's what I consider that is a very special, I would say, facet of being a woman, that is womanhood, and you've got three children. So my first question would personally would be, how did you came across these principles?
Well, that's easy. I was just after I had my third child. I decided that I wanted to find out about becoming a pregnancy coach because I found personally the experience of pregnancy and birth very just mind-blowing and transformative. And I came out of my third birth with this kind of incredible whoosh of energy, and that's where I wanted to go with it. I wanted to be a pregnancy coach. But I had no idea how to become one or what to do. And over the year, I was caring for my three children, who were four, just turned 4, 1 and a bit, and 0 months at the time. And my husband was working all the way. And what I found was that I was just sort of running around on this kind of hamster wheel, trying to figure out how to go about starting a business, but also looking after the three kids and pretty much trying to be the same kind of mum as I had been to one child, to three at the same time, and with my husband not being around very much as well because he was working away a lot. And so I came to this place where I was sort of desperately tired and exhausted and just feeling confused, and it wasn't very pretty, definitely. And I arranged to have a Skype chat with Nicola Bird. And the aim, I thought, of that chat was going to be talking about how to start a coaching business and all those questions that many of us have. But what it actually turned into was her kind of giving me an introduction to the 3 principles, especially because I came on the call and she said, how are you? And like the next second I was like, I don't know, I'm terrible. Oh God, my 3 children, it's so hard. And what am I doing? And I saw you blog and you look so relaxed and so free and so happy. And I just thought, how do you do that? Where does that come from? So we had an amazing chat, and straight away, the understanding started falling into place about how it was my thoughts creating all the feelings that I was struggling with. It wasn't actually anything to do with my circumstances or my career or my children or anything around me. So yeah, that made a very profound impact.
Wow. And did Nicola, did you say Nicola Bird?
Yes, it was
Yes.
Nicola.
And did Nicola Bird explain you about the three principles in a special way, or something that really resonated with you? The reason why I'm asking is because imagine that we've got other mom with three children, three bouncy children,
Yeah.
and she's all stressed out, and she's hearing our conversation and was like, "What do you mean? My thinking creates my feelings. I don't get it." So
Yeah.
how could you explain? Yes.
Of course. And it's funny, actually, like 3 seems to be a tipping point for a lot of women and a lot of mums that I meet. Then you kind of think it would get easier as you go along. But I think the point where you have your third and they're small, I mean, obviously there's a lot of variation because it's not coming from circumstances, but yeah, sort of feeling like you've been brutally made over from top to toe can be how it is embarking on that particular adventure. But what Nicola said to me was that I should imagine that all of the thoughts that I was having were like a ticker tape on a newsreel, you know, when you're watching Sky News or whatever, and you have all these kind of images flashing up behind the ticker tape that illustrate different points about what the news is that day and what's appearing along this strip.
Mm-hmm.
So the ticker tape is like the thoughts going through your mind, like, say, for example, me going, oh God, I think my kids are going to trap the baby's hand in the door, or I think that I'm having trouble cooking because it's so noisy in here and there's so much confusion, or look at this house, it's a terrible mess. And as these thoughts kind of came along my ticker tape, what my consciousness was doing was making it flash up in this big technicolor story, which kind of continued that point along and made it seem very real. Mm-hmm. So that suddenly my head was just absolutely chock full of how am I going to cook dinner? Oh, what are the kids going to do to the baby? Oh, they're jumping off the sofa. Oh, she's in the middle. Oh God. Then yeah, what else? Can't remember what my other example was. But anyway, as the sort of ticker tape continued to flow, and when I say flow, I mean reel past extremely quickly in the kind of mental place that I was in right then. These images would get bigger and bolder, and the TV would kind of get noisier, and I'd become more and more transfixed by these stories appearing before me. And what Nicola pointed out was that the ticker tape is neutral. The ticker tape doesn't mean anything unless you kind of feed it into these massive real looking 3D images. And also that's a natural process. It's something that will happen because, you know, it's part of being human. It's we have the ticker tape of thought and we have the TV screen of consciousness. But when we start having things that are kind of disturbing or upsetting, then we can say, oh, it's okay, it's just the ticker tape. Oh, it's just the story popping up, and we can kind of turn the TV around at least so that we're not looking, you know, right up close.
That is a really good example, and it makes sense to me. One of my mentors from I guess from a different modality used to tell us, what you focus on expands, right? So when you put your attention into it, expands. So it almost like kind of floods your screen of consciousness in that moment because you're putting attention. However, some people may think, oh, is this positive thinking? Am I in denial? And not exactly. It goes beyond that. It has to do with the principle of thought, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the thing is that you don't get to choose what comes up on the ticker tape. It just pops into your head. So trying to mess around in the thinking and trying to feed your consciousness a very specific diet of thoughts that you kind of mark as these are okay and those are not okay because they're too negative or they're too frustrating, or, you know, I just can't deal with those ones, but I'm going to just think these things. It doesn't work like that.
Mm.
Which is something that we're actually being told quite often. Oh, you can control what you're thinking, but you simply can't. It pops up on the ticker tape and it goes past, and that's how it is. So the thing is not to get too attached to what's popping up there, because it's not you. And the images and the stories on the TV screen, they're not really you either. They're things that are flowing through you at that particular moment. And in itself, that doesn't need to make you feel particularly bad. Just because you're having a frustrating story doesn't mean that you have to feel frustrated.
That is a really good point. And one of the things that I discovered, a personal story, is that when I started exploring these principles deeper, and that was back in September when I went to my first live event, due to several years of personal development, I was a big fan of positive thinking. Right? Not that I call myself, I'm a very pragmatic person. I'm practical. But well, like everyone else, I bought into stories, but I'm more I used to be more a positive thinking kind of girl, and many people used to call me the sunshine personality. That was my name, DJ Sunshine, when I was doing the radio show. And one of the things that I discovered, that I had the personal experience when I went to the first live event, and I started getting a deeper understanding of the principle of thought, is that after the weekend, I kind of had a dip in my excitement of life, and I thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, and I spoke with someone. It was like, what's going on? Because I used to feel fabulous, and now I only feel great. What's going on? Something's wrong. And then I had a conversation with someone, and what I came to realize is that even having the positive thinking, because I was attempting to manage my thinking, was still filling my head. That's why I was feeling all that excitement. And once I started dropping those layers of thinking, I felt more relaxed, which naturally helps me to get more access to up-to-date thinking, what some people call the first thinking, moment to moment to moment to moment. So that was very new to me, because it has nothing to do with positive thinking. Positive thinking is going in a better direction than negative thinking, but what we are talking about, it goes beyond positive or negative. You're saying it's not even personal, right? Thoughts are just going, always flowing through your mind. Yes.
And you can kind of, to say that it's getting very mixed up in it, and that can just get very confusing. It's also extremely hard work. It's tiring, because you're trying to control something that you don't actually have so much control over. But what I found more as I settled down, and I found that I don't tend to kind of feed and charge with energy the thoughts that are more difficult, because I'm much more inclined to go, no, that's a bit of a woo, that's some thinking I've got there, rather than going, oh my goodness, that's a huge problem. But the kind of truth in it is that once you do slow down, then you do see kind of more things that are available in your consciousness, that there's more kinds of stories that pop up than just that thing that you're fixated on. I don't know if you found that as well, that as you kind of slow down, then you've got time to notice all kinds of sort of new ways of looking at things that just, like today I was sitting on a bench in the park, and I had a few moments before I was going off to a meeting, and I just sat there, and I was looking at the trees, I was looking around, and my consciousness was basically just full of sunshine and trees and loveliness, so I was feeling really happy. And then I happened to glance down, and there was this perfect heart-shaped puddle right there in front of me. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh, I wasn't even conscious of that a second ago, and right now, it's so pretty, because I could see all the reflections of the sunshine in the trees, and you can look at it and you can say that is a kind of natural work of art of reflecting truth back at itself. Or you can look at it and go, oh, that's some mud, Oh, what a pain. Oh, my kid's going to jump in that. So there's such an element of choice in what you can see.
Yeah.
When I was moving so fast, I wouldn't have been stopping sitting on a bench. I would have been probably trying to answer email or something. And I probably wouldn't even have seen it.
Yeah. And that is beautiful. I remember I was coaching a homeopath a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the importance of taking action, right? Where how to develop your business, create your business, and taking action. And he was telling me how impressive he found that I take a lot of action. And I told him, well, actually, it's quite interesting because since I started getting a deeper understanding of these three principles, I take more inspired action. Because in the past, because I really liked the speed in the past, I used to create a lot of cool stuff, and I used to create a lot of crap to myself, right? Hard work. And nowadays, that one of the things that I'm finding is that I find myself slowing down, which means that before, if I had an email, I would answer the email straight away. And nowadays, I feel quite comfortable waiting 2 or 3 days until I've got a wiser response to the email. So the action that I take is very efficient. I'm creating it a larger scale, but it's because it's more inspired. And I guess it's because I'm slowing down more my pace, but it's like what some people call I'm moving more at speed of life instead of a speed of light. So
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And I think the other thing is that you also, I mean, you feel kind of empowered by that clarity to take bigger actions than you might otherwise, because you're not sitting there going, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, is that for me, is that something that I can do or not? You just kind of go, oh, I'd like to do that. And you do it, don't you?
yes, absolutely. And talking of doing it, it's a personal question, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to. When you started your family, did you guys plan to start a family? It was a gift? How was it? Because all of a sudden you've got 3 children. Just like that.
Sort of, so there was a point where I was 29 and suddenly I started to feel like, I think it would be quite nice to have a baby. And some of my friends had started having children, so I think that was probably just meeting their babies and instead of seeing in these kind of foreign, strange objects, they suddenly became something that I was around a bit more. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like it was suddenly time. It was just this thing that popped up from inside. I mean, like, so there was the inspiration, definitely. And we did talk about starting a family, and we just kind of, let's do it soon. But we didn't really talk about, we're going to plan this, we're going to start trying here. We just kind of, we did what you do when you're starting a family.
Right.
And there was no kind of like, this is us trying for a baby. We just we fell pregnant quickly, and then it was kind of a shock to the system, like, oh wow, because I don't know, I felt like almost, I don't know if it's even going to work. I mean, how does one go about having a baby? And obviously I know the mechanics, but
Right.
it didn't occur to me that it would happen so quickly. So it just kind of happened, and it felt like the right time, and it was really good. I had a really positive first experience of pregnancy, and also my first child, I had a really lovely time with her as a baby, because I was just kind of blown away by this, by the fact that I was successfully keeping this small person alive, and I wasn't, and I felt like I was doing okay because I was kind of following a lot of intuition, and I am the kind of person who'll buy a book about something. like how much should your baby sleep or whatever, and start downloading information that I can. But I still felt this kind of powerful intuition as well, and it just wasn't as scary as I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I fell pregnant very suddenly when she was just turned a year old.
Mm-hmm.
But I lost that baby.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I had the experience of trying for a baby with my son, because then we were kind of more, I guess, after the experience of the miscarriage, having waited a little time after that to kind of let things settle down, then I was very definite that I wanted us to try. But I mean, I was very fortunate that we did, again, fall pregnant quickly. And then, yes, we always, after having a really great birth experience the second time, the idea of having a third child suddenly became a reality, because we'd already talked about having a third child. And 3 just seemed to be the number that kept coming back to us.
Right.
So I kind of knew in my bones that I wanted to do it again. And then, completely by accident.
Right.
So a little bit sooner than we'd planned on. But, we kind of went with it. But I think because they were in quite quick succession, then it has been a period of extremely vigorous kind of adaptation, because you're constantly moving from one thing to another.
Yes. And you spoke about so many things. I remember when we had our Skype call previously, is one of the things that you shared with me is that when you become a mom, is that you've got this new reality every 6 weeks. Is you as a mom, the baby has a new reality because their brain is growing, they are learning about this new environment, and the dad also has to adapt, but they also have changes. So I was like, well, that sounds like all right. So there is a plenty of learning going on every 6 weeks. So what sort of understanding from a 3P perspective, how do you see embracing parenthood? Because it's not just the mom, it's the mom, the baby, the dad, all the people surround you guys, all the family, everyone is adapting and adjusting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's really important to remember that you're working from a place, I mean, things are always fluid, but particularly when you're focusing a lot of your kind of love and attention on raising a small person, then in the first year they develop a tremendous rate. And I mean, continue to do so, obviously, because I mean, everybody says our children are like sponges. They really they seem to be always kind of absorbing the world around them, and kind of and it, as they interact with it in new ways, then their brains change shape, the connections that they're making. Some get they make all kinds of wild associations. I mean, they make about I forget what the figure is. There's some mind-bogglingly huge number of connections, neural connections that babies forge in the first year, and then they get rid of about 80% of them as they go forward from there, because they make all kinds of associations that they don't necessarily need, and then they kind of whittle them down to what they're working with.
Oh, tell me more about that. I find fascinating. Please expand.
Well, when babies learn, I mean, the process that they're going through is making connections within the brain, where a particular, I don't know, I'm trying to think how to explain it. Give me, it's complicated. But so say when a newborn first comes out into the world, then the body and the brain, they go through quite a bit of restructuring initially. I mean, things like, because they're no longer receiving blood through the placenta, but they're and because they're no longer receiving their oxygen that way, then obviously their lungs have to make some changes. They have to, the actual form of their blood changes to adapt them to life in the outside world. And obviously the woman's body is also adapting to the fact that the baby is now left the uterus and is starting to, it develops things that eat extra cells, and it develops lots of things for kind of processing all the excess material that you've been using for pregnancy. And what's happening mentally is that for the baby, they're suddenly faced with this kind of soup of experience, and they haven't yet kind of wired their vision to their eyes and their sense of sound to their ears. So they're very synesthetic. So, for example, they might see colour. They might hear colour, or they might see tastes. And, I mean, they're basically programmed to start rooting around for a breast and to be drawn to milk. I mean, they have a number of reflexes that are controlled by their kind of very basic reptilian brain. And their limbic brain, which is kind of the emotional setup. But gradually, so the first jump that they make over the first 6 weeks is to start to kind of rewire all of that, so that their eyes are actually telling them about things they can see, and their ears are actually telling them about things they can hear. So that's quite a major connection to make. And
all of that happened in 6 weeks only?
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is the intelligence of life. It's amazing.
I mean, they actually go through a little bit of confusion when they're a few weeks old often, because I mean, like, having all that rewiring going on so rapidly it's quite stimulating for them, as you can imagine, and disorienting as well. But every 6 weeks or so they have another one of these leaps where suddenly their interaction with the world, even if it's just observing the world, because of course that's a kind of interaction, then their whole sense of what their experience is changes.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And one of the things that occurred to me when you were explaining that is that it has to do the same way that when people have an understanding what is the usual paradigm of how life works, and then they discover the inside out way of living, that is how life really works. So in the beginning is a little bit disorientated, because it's like all the connections you had, that they were made up. And all of a sudden you were learning about this stuff. It's like, oh, hang on, actually no, my life is actually thought generated. My experience of life is actually thought generated. It has nothing to do with circumstances outside. It just appears that way. So yeah, in the beginning it may feel that it is, but 6 weeks is incredible.
Exactly. And I think that is, I mean, in some ways that is what's happening. I mean, when we talk about kind of this slowing down that we've experienced, I mean, it doesn't mean that you suddenly go into this kind of Zen-like state where you're constantly sitting on a cloud meditating or, whatever. But I think what kind of happens when you experience that kind of leap in your consciousness of how your experience is being created, then it is all the kind of little things that are wired into your neocortex. I'm going to do this in the front, actually, because that's where it is.
Okay.
Then they are changing shape, because how we interact with the world, even as adults, we don't have such drastic changes occurring, but now we know for sure that the brain is developing and changing all the time throughout the lifespan, whereas before MRI technology, people just simply didn't know that, so they would kind of observe this progression to adulthood and then assume that that's when things stop. But actually
is what they call neuroplasticity, neuroplasticity of the brain. I think we're getting a little bit technical today, so let's go a little bit down. So back to a personal story. So what sort of stories or experiences have you got? When do you have, or you can share that, where you actually got to see this understanding playing time after time after time in your life? I mean, from moments that you thought it was outside in, and then you start seeing more and more that was actually inside out. Can you share a couple of stories?
Oh yes, definitely. Well, there was I think there's several things that a lot of mums can probably relate to. There's the oh God, there's not enough time. How do I divide? I mean, when you've got multiple children, how do I divide my attention between them all? And I think also another one is kind of how do I manage my children's growth, which is the big change for me after coming around to this understanding and learning about seeing things from the inside out, was that my job wasn't quite as defined in terms of kind of bringing on my children's learning and bringing on my children's growing, because when you're looking at things from the inside out, then you're saying that the intelligence of life, like the intelligence that turns a tulip bulb into a tulip rather than a daffodil, or that keeps us going through all these incredible kind of physical developments as we grow, then that intelligence, it works from a mental perspective as well, and they have what they need to grow. So all you have to do is support them and maybe give them more opportunity to interact with things that their curiosity is stimulated by. And I think anybody who's ever had a toddler knows that curiosity is stimulated by an awful lot of things. And yeah, it's not our job to manage that. I mean, we don't need to keep feeding children with 20 different types of extracurricular activities before they've even finished preschool and things like that. We don't have to worry about inspiring them to action, because they're already living from a place of massive inspiration. And you know, we need to step back and follow them and trust that they really do know what they're doing, and they do. They're absolutely built for it. So one of the things that really changed for me was not worrying so much about scheduling activities. And, you know, I like doing crafts, I like cooking, I like going in the garden, but then I don't feel like I have to plan and direct as much as I used to. I mean, I'm still the captain of the ship, but they get to steer it where they want to go as much as possible when the goal is to hang out together and have, well, activity, broadly speaking. You know, if they want to go to the playground, that's what we do. If they want to do art, that's what we do. And also, if they're kind of frustrated and they're kind of looking around, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I'm bored, I don't really feel like I have to manage that either. And say, well, you know, look around you. And soon they do. They're never bored for long. They pick up on something and they get going. And yeah, I think the other thing is feeling that, for one thing, that does free up time, because you don't feel like you have to kind of be constantly prepared with as much stuff. And also being more reactive means that you don't worry so much if a plan goes out the window, or if like dinner is a bit later or something like that. So that kind of gives this more flexibility when it comes to time. And you're not trying to fit quite as much in, so you're free to have a better quality of experience rather than a quantity of experience.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. It's one of the things that I really I love people in general, but one of the things that I really love about people is getting to know their stories. And if I've got the time, I would be asking question after question, just because I'm curious about people. And for me, that is the meaning of relationship, like actually investing the time to getting to know the person. So if I feel that someone, they talking with me but they're not really present because they're after something, I actually feel a disconnect. because for me it's all about the quality. And yeah, and what you say about children makes sense. I don't know if you ever had the experience of giving a present to a kid in a big box, and they don't care about the toy, they just care about the box. I was like, could I have given the box, would be
Absolutely.
cheaper. Because
Seeing the kind of mad props that they come up with to play with as well. It's like you kind of going around the house and you find like a rabbit stuffed inside a sock with like some kind of headdress attached to it on a fishing rod, and you're like, what on earth were they doing with that?
yeah,
They figured it out.
yeah, it's creativity at play, isn't it? Because they are in touch with all that wisdom. And what I heard in what you just told me is that your own children have their own wisdom as well, in the same way that you are connected to the intelligence of life, because it's where all of us come from. So are your kids. They are also connected to that energy of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I mean, just the sense that it's neither something that you can control or something that you need to control, because that energy is going to flow despite what your thoughts are, and just because you kind of programmed something to be a certain way doesn't mean that the experience will be like that, and that's okay too, because when you realize that there is more of a separation between how you see your life in your head and how things actually turn out, and that's perfectly okay and normal, rather than going, but I'd planned for us to, I don't know, I'd planned for us to go on and feed the ducks today, and it's raining, and now that's ruined. You know, you kind of roll with the tide a little bit more.
Yes. Then that brings me something just occurred to me in terms of womanhood and of some of the pressure that nowadays women experience in terms of being the perfect woman, right? You are the perfect mom, you are the perfect career woman, you are the perfect size 6. You still have to look really hot to your husband, even though you had a baby 2 days ago. You must jump into shape straight away because Hollywood stars do it. And so what's I wouldn't say the word advice, but what would you say to the ladies who feel under pressure, basically, to
Well, I
be the
think,
super lady?
yeah, I'd say you already are absolutely perfect the moment that you're in. I'd say that, you know, this kind of illusion of perfection that we see, you know, we see it represented around us kind of in the media, and also, you know, you can always look around town and see somebody more well groomed than you are, especially when you live in Portugal.
Well,
And you know, but perfectionism itself, it's a toxic goal, because it's not reachable, it's not doable. And even if it were, as soon as you reach perfection in one area, then you'd start looking for another area to perfect. And there's a great deal of shame leveled at, well, not shame, but shaming leveled at women in terms of whether they're a mum or not, what kind of mother they are. You know, there's always going to be somebody thinking that you're doing it wrong or right. There's always going to be opportunities for judgment, and there is this sense of, I think more so for women than for men, according to, say, for example, Brené Brown, the researcher who writes about shame. She says that for women there's two things: there's appearance and there's motherhood, are the principal causes of the principal pressures on women, if you like, in our society. And I mean, just having had a baby, you've got a double whammy of that. Like you said, there's that pressure to kind of get your before baby body back, or, and also to be the perfect mum at the same time. But that perfectionism is, I mean, gosh, I was thinking earlier, I was like, should I describe myself as a recovering perfectionist? And I thought, well, maybe I just never was perfect enough to describe myself as a perfectionist. Like,
Oh.
Well, it's just it runs so deep in our culture, and I think a lot of women can probably relate to that, couldn't they?
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny because once you get to that stage in life where we start embracing ourselves more of where we're at, right? It's like, and we start realizing that we've got way more going for us than we can possibly imagine, embracing that and stop caring about what other people think. It seems that other people start feeling more attracted to us as well because it's like, I
Yeah.
really don't care about your opinion. I care deeply about you, but I don't care that much about your opinion. I'm enjoying my life.
Exactly. And half the time, other people don't think what you think they think anyway, do they? So.
Oh, that's beautiful. Can you please explain? I got confused on that one.
Okay. Well, I mean, everybody lives in their own separate reality
Mm-hmm.
because we've all had a different experience of life. We've all had different kinds of interaction with the outside world, and the thoughts that we've created about those experiences and the memories that we have, and the associations that we've forged in all of this kind of neural wiring that we do. It's different for every person, so nobody sees anything the same way as you do. And beyond that, you also have this changing emotional state. So sometimes you feel good, sometimes you feel bad. When you're in a bad mood, everything around you takes on this kind of veneer of grime, or and dissatisfaction, because you're in a bad mood, not because it's actually like that. And similarly, when you're really experiencing your well-being and you're experiencing happiness and peace and all of those lovely things, then everything around you is sort of glows, has a beautiful aura, colors are brighter. I mean, so everybody coming out of a yoga class is like, oh, and smiling. And yeah, so you have this changing mental state. And when often we feel kind of judged, or we feel swept aside by people, we feel kind of worried, especially for women, maybe again, that we're failing to please somebody in some way, then it's easy to misinterpret somebody else's bad mood as being about you, when in fact, they might even, if you're arguing with a partner over whose turn it was to change nappies and things like that, and it kind of gets a bit out of hand because you're both not in a particularly happy state at the time, then it's really easy to look at each other and go, all of this is coming from you. And what's more, it's your fault. And it's amazing how right you get in those moments too sometimes.
Right.
In fact, what's happening isn't that. It's not right. You're experiencing a dip in your consciousness where you're just in a bad mood. So everything around you is looking bad. So that person who otherwise you might feel unconditional love for is having a lot of conditions put on them. And they're sensing that and responding to you as well, because that's kind of what we do, isn't it, sometimes? So yeah, coming back to what we were saying about being in a different thought-created reality to the next person, if we're feeling judged and we're kind of looking around us going, oh, I don't measure up to these people, I bet they're all thinking, oh my goodness, she's so scruffy. Doesn't she know? Hasn't she ever worn a pair of high heels? Or like, or you're looking around thinking, everybody's watching me, my children, that one's just gone and started peeing on the grass over there, and that one is fighting with that one, and and you're having one of those moments where possibly what your children's intelligence is telling them to do is not what you would wish for them to do.
Right.
And it's so easy to feel judged and to kind of start really loudly experiencing other people's thinking. And half the time they're probably thinking, oh, I wonder if I could help her, or oh gosh, I remember being like that, or they could be thinking anything.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And I guess if you are in that situation, if you're lacking sleep, right,
Mm.
and the baby is crying, I don't know, colics or whatever is going on, and then you kind of like, okay, I did change the nappies the last time, now is your time to do it. It's kind of difficult to say, oh, actually, I'm grumpy because I'm tired, I didn't have enough sleep, instead of saying it's your partner's fault. You are the one who put me in this situation, it's all your fault. Yeah, it's hard, but I completely get. I When I was in a long-term relationship, I don't have any children, but I was in a long-term relationship with a partner, and when he had this thing that if he sugar levels dropped, he
Mm.
became really cranky, and it was so unusual for him that I he's not excessively cranky, but it was so different. It was like, what's going on with you? And back then I didn't know about the three principles, and it was not much. It's just that his sugar level dropped, so he needed to eat some sugar. Yeah, but it could be something like
Mm.
that. So
Oh,
small.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I've had that experience too.
I was
Well,
like, oh.
and my husband, especially when we used to go shopping when we were hungry, and
Hmm.
it was never a good move. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of, I mean, what we do is what we got. What we've
Mm.
got going on in our heads does definitely impact the way that we experience life. You know, we can choose to a degree to really, really feed thoughts that are actually quite damaging for us.
Hmm.
And the more we do that, the more, like you said, I mean, it tends to expand.
Hmm.
And equally, from when you kind of settle down into a place where you're seeing things from a place of greater well-being and greater happiness, then that expands.
Yes.
Um, but you also still have this kind of system, this biology where you're having hormones changing and sugar levels dropping or rising and all of these other things going on. I mean, we kind of have this experience from our mind of our own body, and yet, as with kind of our thoughts and everything, there's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't even pick up on. I mean, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. I don't know how many I see of those. And there's so much going on with us in our body as well.
Yeah.
It's no wonder we have such kind of drastic changes from one moment to the other sometimes.
Yes, and then with the hormones, things compound.
Mm.
And on the other side of the coin, that we always feeling our thinking moment to moment to moment, also still about the same partner. One of the things that I really love about him is that he loved me even when I was cranky, and that made me fall in love, even more in love with him. I was like, oh my God, I love that man so much. He loves me even when I'm cranky.
I mean, why not? Because I mean that's a perfectionism thing again, isn't
Hmm.
it? That
Hmm.
I can't be this way and still be lovable, or I can't be this way and still be the person that he wants me to be.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's something that's definitely shifted for me too. Somewhat is not feeling that I have to be everything to everybody, and that it is okay to be really, really grumpy sometimes, and to know that that's just a transient state. It's going to pass, and
Hmm.
it doesn't say anything about me. It doesn't say anything, certainly, about how worthy I am of love or anything like that. And that's a really powerful lesson, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Alexis, I'm loving this conversation, and I'm aware that we are coming to a natural conclusion for today. How can people find you?
Well, they can find me on my website,
Mhm.
which is mamajestic.com. That's mamajestic.com. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook quite a bit, so I'll be really, really easy to find there.
Okay.
Um, there's also my email and everything on my website. And I would be absolutely delighted to hear from people.
Okay. And naturally, one of the things you did say in the beginning is that you do speak in English and Portuguese. So, would you like to leave a words in Portuguese? I'm not completing as yet. Would you like to leave a couple of words in Portuguese for our Portuguese audience?
Pois. Sim, sim. Eu estava a viver em Portugal há 10 anos agora e havia sempre um processo de aprendizagem.
Uhum,
Estou a aprender todos os dias
uhum,
como falar melhor em português, eu espero.
uhum,
Como é que para ser uma mulher no Portugal.
uhum.
E para mim, estou completamente fascinada com as experiências dos mães à volta de mim. E acho é muito interessante porque quando é uma inglesa no Portugal, não tem o mesmo estruturas e ideias fixas de cultura como os
Uhum.
portugueses. Eu posso apreciar o que vocês estão a experienciar
Oh,
e gosto muito de ouvir.
oh, that's beautiful. Now, if you could say the similar thing in English so people can, the translation, I can attest everything you say is correct.
Yay! Win.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful accent,
I
beautiful
think
accent.
I've been living in Portugal for 10 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it's so interesting to see kind of how the experiences of women in Portugal are different to the experiences of women in England. And I think it's really helped me to learn because we're always learning, right? And it's helped me learn a lot about being a mum and being a woman and what it means because I get to see different cultures' views.
Yes, and it's one of the reasons why I love traveling so much because I get to experience cross-cultural way people live, and the same way I'm not too attached to the local framework, so I see things differently, and I get to embrace my personal weirdness a bit more because people are not expecting me to fit. I use that as an excuse all the time. I was like, "What do you know? I'm only a Portuguese lady," and off I go.
I'm still going to nick that phrase off
I
you.
gave away my
My
trick.
personal weirdness. That's what I've been doing all these years. I had no idea.
Embrace it. Embrace it. Okay, so this has been delightful. For people who want to find me, you can either go to Facebook, so that would be facebook.com/Clésia.Mendes, and I'll spell that. So that would be CLESIA.MENDES, or you can go directly to my website. So that would be www.clesiamensch.com. And Alexis, before we conclude the show, would you like to leave some parting thoughts for the new moms or moms to be?
Oh, yeah, how to condense all that into one thing. I'd say trust yourself, just really, really trust yourself because all the wisdom and everything you need for this journey, you already have it. There's so much on your side in terms of what your biology and your physiology and your psychology are giving you. But also you have this incredible intelligence that comes from all the rest of life. And that's something your kids have as well. And you don't have to give it to them. And you don't have to work on yourself because you're already there.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Trust the wisdom that lives inside of you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So it was delightful to have you, Alexis. So I'll see you soon
Such
again.
a pleasure.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Beijinhos.
Beijinho. Ciao.